much market share anymore. I don't know. I think that's probably true, but that doesn't mean they can't be used. So, what we're gonna do now, friends? We're gonna get rid of our Hey Yeah Girl. We're gonna read a book. It's a bit of some rights reserved, so this works under Creative Commons license. So, this is an older version of the license compared to the versions. So they're more user-friendly and more internationally robust. Alright, you are licensing your own works. So, you're free to share and adapt. Alright, so we are free to read this on Twitch. I'm pretty sure we can read this, and we're going to do this a little bit at a time. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now. But I stumbled upon this book when I was putting together this stream, and I thought, hey, why don't we do, toward the end of the stream, why don't we just go through this book a little bit at a time? And then, it'll just be a little fun thing we do at the end. So we spent at least, since 8:30. It's 10:10 right now. We spent a decent amount of time going through Ruby documentation. We had our vegetables. We had our dinner, so let's have our dessert. So read this paragraph. At my local Barnes & Nobles, there's a huge wall of JavaScript books just waiting to tip over and crush me one day. And one day, it will. At the rate things are going, one day this bookcase will be tall enough to crush us all. It might even loop the world around several times, crushing the previous editions of the same Java book over and over and over again. And this, paragraph 2. This is a small Ruby book. It won't crush you. It's light as a feather because I haven't finished it yet. Teehee. And there's a reason this book will stay light, because Ruby is simple to learn. Don't read this one. Wise, Poignant Ruby Guide to Ruby was released under the attribution share alike license. So yes, please distribute it, print it out, read it leisurely in your house code. In fact, there will be a contest at the end of this book for the best house coat. I'm telling you. It's a coveted award, and you should feel honored to read about it. Especially if you're reading about it in your soon-to-be prize-winning house coat. Now back to your regularly scheduled paragraph. I'll try not to feel utterly rejected. This book doesn't capture your fancy. I might experience a few long days of emptiness accompanied by profuse weeping. But other than that, I'll be fine. It's at least comforting to know that the following text cover my topic and will doubtless fill your Ruby lust. Learn programming with Ruby, real-term reference. Ruby User's Guide by Mats. I'm interested to, and this isn't here anymore, because this is a kind of an older, book was published in 2000, I believe if I'm not wrong, this book was published in 2005. And where things looked a lot different. And everyone's like, now everyone's JavaScript. So what we might do is, I am thinking of doing the streams by opening it up with the Chris Pine book. Seriously, his name's Chris Pine? Wait, really? His name is Chris Pine? That just hit me. Like, Chris Pine. Not Chris Evans, Chris Pine. This is Chris Pine. Alright. He's 45. They're never gonna make that Star Trek movie. Alright, anyway. See, I want to see if I can find what Mats wrote. Sorry. Mats Musa-san no kakeru no koto wa mitsukaretides. What, did he just start speaking Japanese in the middle of an English stream? What's going on now? welcome to the pirate radio of technical manuals. I really like that. It's fun. Why not have fun, I say? What's the point? Can't have fun. What is the point? Okay. Interesting. Well, let's get into it. Konnichiwa. Okay. Let's look at the cartoon. Because cartoon's cool. An elf and his pet ham, a giraffe, surrounded by weezards. Weezards. Microscopic canaries. This guide is a veritable showcase of life. Live TV in the year 2012. And interestingly enough, this was made in 2020 or literally 20 years ago. 2005, I believe, was the publication date of this. Thanks to Wise Poignant Guide, even infants can learn Ruby. It's just that simple. Class self. Wah, mother, wah. I'm deeply touched by this strange book, Wise Poignant Guide to Ruby. Seriously, I feel great inside. Like a cavity of my body is filled with an avocado and mayonnaise whip. I'm small. I have adventures. Okay, now you get to start the book. Konnichiwa, Ruby-san. Opening this book. Pretend you've opened this book, although you probably have opened this book. Just to find a huge onion right in the middle of the crease of the book. The manufacturer of this book has included the onion at my request. And so you're like, wow, this book comes with an onion. Even though if you particularly don't like onions, I'm sure you'll have appetite for logistics of shipping any sort produced discreetly inside an alleged programming manual. Then you ask yourself, wait a minute, I thought this book was a book on Ruby, an incredibly new programming language from Japan. And although I appreciate the logistics of shipping any sort of produce discreetly inside of an alleged programming manual, why an onion? What am I supposed to do with it? No, don't puzzle over it. This is the David Lynch of programming books. This is like if David Lynch wrote a programming book. You don't need to do anything with the onion. Just set the onion aside and let it do something with you. I'll be straight with you. I want you to cry, to weep, to whimper sweetly. This book is a poignant guide to Ruby. That means code is so beautiful that tears are shed. That means the gallant tales and somber truth that have you waking up the next morning in the arms of this book, hugging it tightly to you all the day long. If necessary, fashion a makeshift hip holster for Wise Poignant Guide to Ruby, so you can always have this book's tender companionship. You really must sob once, at least a little sniffle, and if not, then the onion will make it all happen for you. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That is absolutely amazing. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to read through like the dog sidebar, and then once we're going to get to before free book, then we're going to go back up to the sidebar. Alright, so we're going to do the dog story, we're going to do the red sunrises, then we're going to go back into the sidebar, read the sidebar, and then go back down and finish this page, and that'll be it. Okay? Because Uncle John only has, or Mr. John, whatever you want to call him, only has so much energy. So it's maybe not what we all need. Anyway, the dog story. So try this bit of poignancy on for size. One day I was walking down one of those busy roads covered with car dealerships. This was shortly after my wedding was called off. I found an orphan dog on the road, a woolly black dog with greenish red eyes. I was kind of feeling like an orphan myself, so I took a couple of balloons that were tied to a pole at the dealership and relocated them on the dog's collar. Then I decided he would be my dog. I named him Bigelow. Bigelow? We set off to get some milk balloons for Bigelow, and afterwards head over to my place. We would sit in recliners and listen to Zorky's Zygotic Mindsy. Oh, we'd also need to stop by the thrift store and get Bigelow his own recliner. But Bigelow hadn't accepted me as his master. For 5 minutes later, the stupid dog took a different crosswalk than I did, and I never caught up. So, whereas he had previously only been lost once, now he'd been lost twice. I slowed my pace towards the life of Milkbones and an extra recliner. I had a dog for 5 minutes. Stupid Benedict Arnold of a dog. I sat on the city bench and threw pine cones at a statue of 3 sheep crossing a bridge. After that, I wept for hours. The tears just came. There's a little something poignant to get you started. I wonder where he went with all those balloons. That crazy dog must have looked like a party with legs. It wasn't much later that I pulled my own Bigelow and printed out a bunch of pages on Ruby. Articles from around the web. I scanned them through a train ride on a train. I scanned through them on a train ride home one day. I flipped through them for 5 minutes and then gave up. Not impressed. I sat staring out the window at the world. A life-size blender mixing graffiti and iron smelts before my eyes. The world's too big for such a little language, I thought. Poor little thing doesn't stand a chance. Doesn't have legs to stand on. Doesn't have an arm to swim. Doesn't have arms to swim. Apparently I can't really read. And yet, there I was. One little man on a flimsy train. And even I still have a baby tooth to lose at the time. Out of billions of people living on a floating blue rock. How can I knock Ruby? Who's to say I'm not going to happen to choke on my cell phone and die later that evening? Wise dead. Ruby lives on. Which is ironic reading this today. The gravestone. What's in his trachea? Oh, look, a note. I always said that thing could kill people, and man, I really love this. Just my luck. Finally, get to have a good long sleep underground, only to be constantly disturbed by Petchell's cannon going off in my stomach. Petchbells? The red sun rises. Oof, let's see if this gets a little... So, now you're wondering why I changed my mind about Ruby. Quick answer is, we clicked. Like when you meet somebody, why is somebody capitalized, in college and they look like somebody who used to hit you in the face with paintbrushes when you were a kid. And so impulsively, you conclude that new somebody is likely a non-friend. You wince at their hair, you hang up phones loudly during crucial moments in their anecdotes. You use your pogo stick right where they are trying to walk. 6 months later, however, you and somebody are sitting at a fountain having a perfectly good chat. Their face doesn't look much like that childhood nemesis. You've met the good twin. You clicked. So whereas I should probably be pondering or pounding. It's 10:24 p.m. I've been up since 4. So whereas I should probably be pounding your teeth in with hype about Ruby and the tightly knit cadre of pertinent acronyms that accompany it everywhere, wetting the collective whistles of your bosses and their bosses' bosses. Instead, I will let you coast. I'll let you free fall through some code, injecting occasionally my own heartfelt experiences. It'll be quite easy, quite natural, and I should offer you some sort of motivation. Though some smooch kiss, I'm going to give you three best reasons to learn Ruby and be done with it. 1. Brain health. Vitamin R. Goes straight to the head. Ruby will teach you to express your ideas through a computer. You'll be writing stories for a machine. Creative skills, people. Creative skills, people. Deduction, reasoning, nodding intelligently. The language will become a tool for you to better connect your mind to the world. I've noticed that many experienced users of Ruby seem to be clear thinkers and objective, in contrast heavily biased and coarse. One man on one island. Ruby was born in Japan, which is freaky. Reader's note on that. I live in Japan. I don't think that's that freaky. Japan is not known for its software. It was known for its technology for a little bit, but yeah. And since programming languages are largely written in English, who would have suspected a language to come from Japan? Okay, and I want to point something out. I didn't find this today, but it was like Ruby. I was looking if Ruby was actually on the MDN or not, but Ruby annotation is actually is in HTML, so the Ruby HTML represents small annotation, right? So this clearly comes from having some sort of history with Ruby, right? I think that's pretty cool that Ruby essentially directly influenced HTML. Yeah, other things did too, but anyway. And yet, here we have Ruby. Guess the odds. Yukihiro Matsumoto created Ruby on February 24th, 1993. And for the past 10 years, he steadily brought Ruby to a global audience. It's triumphant and noble and all that. Support diversity. Help us tilt the earth just a bit. Which, despite his saying that's freaky, that it comes from Japan, I actually do kind of agree. After 48 hours of using Ruby, maybe I'll come to hate it, but right now, seems pretty fun. Free. Using Ruby costs nothing. The code to Ruby itself is open for all the world to inhale and exhale. Heck, this book is free. It's all part of the great big giveaway that should have some big hitch to it. You'd think we make you buy a vacuum cleaner or timeshares or fake Monets. You'd think that there'd be a 90-minute presentation on where the owner of the company comes out at the end and knuckles you into sealing the deal. Nope, free. With that, it's time for the book to begin. So now you get your highlighter and start dragging it along each captivating word of this sentence. I think I have enough hairspray and funny money on my person to keep me sustained until the final page. All right. Let's read the sidebar. Sidebar, what am I going to do with the massive proceeds from this book? Anyone who's written a book can tell you that how easily an author is distracted by visions of grandeur. In my experience, I stopped twice for each paragraph and 4 times for each panel of a comic just to envision the wealth prosperity of this book will procure for my life. I fear the writing of this book will halt altogether to make way for an armada of SUVs and luxury town cars that are blazing away in my head. Rather than stop my production of the Poignant guide, I've reserved this space as a safety zone for pouring my empty and vain wishes. Today, I was at an Italian restaurant, Grando's, and I was paying my bill. I happened to notice under the glass a bottle of balsamic vinegar going for $150. Fairly small. I can conceal it in my palm. Aged 22 years. I spent a lot of time thinking about that bottle and it is often an accessory in some of my obsessive fantasies. In one fantasy, I walk into a restaurant and toss a stack of greenery on the counter and earnestly say to the cashier, "Quick, I have an important salad to make." In another related fantasy, I am throwing away lettuce. Such roughage isn't befitting of my new vinegar. No, I will only come to a point where the fame and aristocracy will have to corrupt me to my core. My new lettuce will be cash, cold hard, Mrs. Price. Cold hard cash, Mrs. Price. Soon, I will be expending I will be expending hundreds for a block of Miseretta, Misra, Mizithra cheese. My imaginations, my imaginations have gone beyond possession. My imaginations have now gone beyond possessions of. Certainly, I've thought through my acquisition of Grecian urns, motorcades, airlines, pyramids, dinosaur bones. Occasionally, I'll see wind-tossed cities on the news, and I'll jot down my shopping list. Hurricane! But now, I'm seeing the larger goal. Simply put, what if I amassed such a fortune that the mints couldn't print enough to keep up with my demand? So everyone else was forced to use Monopoly money as actual currency. And you would have to win in Monopoly to keep food on the table. These would be some seriously tense games. I mean, you go to Mortgage St. James Place and your kid starts crying. In addition, I think you'll begin to see the end of those who choose to use the free parking square at the underground coffers for city funds. You've got to hand it to fund money, though. Fake money rules. You can get your hands on it so quickly. For a moment, it seems like you're crazy, rich. And when I was a kid, I got some of the neighborhood kids and we built a little Tijuana on our street. We made our own pesos, wore sombreros, and everything. 2005, kids. One kid was selling hot tamales and 2 pesos. 2 pesos. Did this kid know what money was? The money was fake? Was he out of his mind? Who invited this kid? Didn't he know this wasn't really Tijuana? Maybe he was really from Tijuana. Maybe they were real pesos. Let's go make more real pesos. I think we even had a tavern where you could get totally hammered off Kool-Aid. There's nothing like a bunch of kids stumbling around, mumbling incoherently with punchy red clown lips. Okay, that is very, very odd. Very, very fun. And maybe could get somebody canceled. I don't know. I'm just reading the book and maybe giving a little voice to it. I'm not necessarily endorsing what's being used, though. How books start. Now, if you read a book, you know no book can properly start without an exorbitant amount of synergy. Yes, synergy. Maybe you didn't know this. Synergy means that you and I are supposed to cooperate to make this great reading experience. To make this a great reading experience. We start off this book by getting along well in the introduction. This togetherness, this synergy, propels us through the book with me guiding you on your way. You give me a reassuring nod and a snicker to indicate your progress. I'm Peter Pan holding your hand. Come on, Wendy, the second star to the right, and on until morning. Was that a Star Trek reference, or is that actually in Peter Pan? One problem here. I don't get along well with people. I don't hold hands very well. Any of my staff will tell you. At the opening ceremony of this book, I catered with stadium seating. I discovered that the cucumber sandwiches weren't served in tea towels. As a result, the butter hadn't set with the cucumbers right. Anyway, I made a big scene and set fire to some of the advertising trucks outside. I smashed the spotlight to pieces, and so on. I had made this loud maniacal laughing thing going on deep into the night. I had made this loud maniacal laughing thing going on deep into that night. It was a real mess. What does that mean? But since I don't get along well with people, I hadn't invited anyone but myself to the opening ceremonies of this book. So I wasn't really embarrassing. So it wasn't really that embarrassing. I kept it under wraps and no one found out about it the whole ordeal. So you've got to know that synergy doesn't actually mean synergy in this book. I can't do normal synergy. No. In this book, synergy means cartoon boxes. What I'm saying is this book will be starting off with an exorbitant amount of cartoon foxes, and I will be counting on you to turn them into synergy. And that's as like good a place as I could probably leave it for tonight. That is mightily hilarious of a book because then it is actually kind of turning into cartoon foxes. We're gonna get into this. I encourage everyone to read this on your own. I don't get how can you play TV on Twitch? Like, I get how people can play games, but how can you like watch movies and crap on Twitch? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, that's gonna do us for today, my friends. I'm still amazed that Ruby found its way on into, and how Ruby found its way in here is essentially doing Japanese, which I've never really played with this because I know how to write Japanese, so I don't need to really. Okay, yeah. So this is it's doing Ruby, and what this is called is furigana. Basically, what this means is if you don't know Japanese, um, there's this thing called kanji, right, which is essentially means Chinese letters. Here I go, white man splaining Japanese, but anyway, this all in the stream. And how Ruby seems to work in HTML is that it is providing the pronunciation for stuff above text, which I think is pretty cool. Like this, we've now built in furigana, which is just infinitely useful for a lot of different things. But yeah, I don't know any Japanese developers very well, so I'd like to know if they actually do implement Ruby or not, and see how this actually works under the hood. But yeah, we'll tomorrow after we go through a bit more of the documentation, we might do Chris Pine's book on Ruby, and we might do some of this as well. I was working a little bit on a rock paper scissors program using Ruby, so I saw some like fun stuff with ASCII. So I might do a little bit of like ASCII rock paper scissors shoot. As always, rock paper scissors shoot. It's nothing else. But until that time, my friends, we'll leave it there. So thanks for watching, everybody who's watching, and yeah, everybody have a great day. Be well.